In the summer of 2008, Megan found herself at a crossroads in her professional life. A driven and ambitious young executive, she had been handed an extraordinary but daunting task: turning around a failing division of her company. Her team was scattered, the market was volatile, and the leadership above her seemed to lack clarity. Despite her best efforts, Megan was stuck in a frustrating cycle of meetings, brainstorming sessions, and failed initiatives. She wasn't inexperienced or lazy. On the contrary, Megan had built her career on hard work and determination. Yet, as she stared at the mountain of issues her division faced, she realized she didn't have the tools to climb it. The strategies she'd relied on before, setting ambitious goals, encouraging her team to work harder, were no longer enough. The stakes were too high, and the usual motivational tactics felt shallow. One evening, after another exhausting day, Megan shared her frustrations with a mentor. "I'm doing everything I can," she said, "but nothing's working. I need a strategy that actually solves problems, not just another plan that sounds good on paper." Her mentor smiled and handed her a copy of Good Strategy, Bad Strategy: The Difference and Why It Matters by Richard P. Rumelt. "This book," he said, "will teach you what most people get wrong about strategy. It's not about setting big goals or using flashy words. It's about clarity, focus, and solving real problems." Intrigued, Megan began reading, and within the first few pages, she felt a jolt of recognition. Rumelt's straightforward writing cut through the jargon that had overwhelmed her. He didn't offer quick fixes or overpromise success. Instead, he laid bare the mistakes most leaders make and explained, in clear terms, what distinguishes good strategy from bad. Megan learned about the importance of diagnosing the root problem, crafting a guiding policy to address it, and implementing coordinated actions to execute the plan. She realized her own strategies had been little more than vague aspirations and misdirected efforts. With this new understanding, she began applying Rumelt's principles to her work, and the results were transformative. Her division started showing signs of recovery, and Megan felt empowered for the first time in months. Her story is one of many that illustrates how good strategy, bad strategy is more than just a book. It's a practical guide for anyone who wants to succeed in business and beyond. Let's explore the lessons Rumelt shares, starting with the core principles of good strategy. 1. The kernel of good strategy. At the heart of every effective strategy lies what Rumelt calls the kernel. This foundational concept is simple but powerful, consisting of 3 essential components: diagnosis, identifying the root problem or challenge; guiding policy, developing a high-level approach to address the problem; coherent actions, creating specific, coordinated steps to implement the guiding policy. For instance, consider Apple's turnaround under Steve Jobs. When Jobs returned to the company in the late 1990s, Apple was floundering with an overextended product line and poor financial health. Jobs diagnosed the problem. Apple lacked focus and was spreading itself too thin. His guiding policy was to simplify and streamline, focusing on a few high-quality products. The coherent actions he implemented included discontinuing unprofitable product lines, launching the iMac, and doubling down on design and innovation. This strategy not only saved Apple, but also set it on the path to becoming a global powerhouse. Rumelt emphasizes that without a clear kernel, a strategy will fail. Leaders must resist the temptation to chase multiple goals and instead focus their energy on addressing the most critical issues. 2. The pitfalls of bad strategy. Rumelt doesn't just define good strategy. He also exposes the flaws of bad strategy. According to him, bad strategy is alarmingly common and often takes the form of fluff, vague and meaningless language that sounds impressive but lacks substance; ambitious goals without a plan; setting lofty targets without a clear roadmap to achieve them; ignoring the problem, focusing on symptoms rather than diagnosing and addressing the root cause. For example, Rumelt recounts the story of an airline that declared its strategy was to provide excellent customer service. While this statement sounded admirable, it did nothing to address the airline's real issues: high operating costs and an inefficient fleet. Without tackling these core problems, the strategy was doomed to fail. Megan recognized these pitfalls in her own approach. She had been so focused on motivating her team and setting ambitious goals that she overlooked the fundamental challenges her division faced. By shifting her focus to problem solving, she began to see real progress. 3. The power of focus. One of Rumelt's most compelling arguments is the importance of focus. He writes, "A good strategy works by focusing energy and resources on one or a very few pivotal objectives, whose accomplishment will lead to a cascade of favorable outcomes. Focus requires discipline. It means saying no to distractions and resisting the urge to chase every opportunity." For instance, during Megan's turnaround efforts, she initially tried to address all her division's problems at once: improving marketing, streamlining operations, boosting morale, and more. But this scattered approach led to mediocre results. Inspired by Rumelt, Megan identified the division's single most pressing issue: outdated product designs that no longer met customer needs. By channeling her team's energy into revamping the product line, she achieved a breakthrough that reinvigorated sales and restored confidence in the company. Focus doesn't mean ignoring everything else. It means recognizing which actions will have the greatest impact and prioritizing them. 4. Strategic leverage. Another key concept in the book is strategic leverage, using limited resources to achieve outsized results. This often involves finding asymmetries, where small, targeted actions can create significant ripple effects. For instance, think about Netflix's rise to dominance in the entertainment industry. Instead of trying to compete with Blockbuster's physical stores, Netflix focused on its subscription model and personalized recommendations. These relatively small but strategic moves allowed Netflix to carve out a unique position in the market, ultimately outpacing its much larger competitor. Rumelt argues that strategic leverage requires creativity and an ability to see opportunities where others see obstacles. For Megan, this meant identifying her division's strengths and using them to her advantage. By leveraging her team's design expertise, she created a product line that outshined competitors, even with fewer resources. 5. Leadership and tough choices. Good strategy often requires tough choices, and this is where leadership plays a crucial role. Rumelt stresses that leaders must be willing to make trade-offs. Prioritizing one initiative often means letting go of others. Communicate clearly. A strategy is only as effective as the team's understanding of it. Adapt when necessary. Circumstances change, and strategies must evolve to remain relevant. For example, when Jeff Bezos founded Amazon, his guiding policy was to prioritize long-term growth over short-term profits. This meant making difficult decisions, such as reinvesting profits into infrastructure and technology, rather than maximizing immediate returns. Bezos' clarity and conviction allowed Amazon to become one of the most successful companies in the world. For Megan, leadership meant rallying her team around a shared vision. She communicated the division's new strategy with transparency and conviction, ensuring everyone understood their role in its execution. 6. Strategy as problem solving. At its core, Rumelt argues that strategy is about problem solving. Good strategy begins with a clear-eyed diagnosis of the challenges at hand and develops a coherent plan to overcome them. During World War II, for example, the Allied forces faced the formidable challenge of breaking through Nazi defenses in Europe. Instead of launching a broad assault, they concentrated their efforts on the beaches of Normandy, creating a focused and strategic operation that turned the tide of the war. This principle applies to businesses too. Megan's success hinged on her ability to identify the division's root problems and address them with precision. Instead of getting bogged down in minor issues, she tackled the core challenge and created a strategy that worked. 7. The critical role of execution. A brilliant strategy is worthless without execution. Rumelt emphasizes that coherent actions, the specific steps taken to implement a strategy, are just as important as the strategy itself. For instance, a tech startup might diagnose its core problem as slow user adoption and develop a guiding policy to improve onboarding. But without coherent actions, like redesigning the user interface and offering tutorials, the strategy will remain ineffective. Execution requires alignment, coordination, and persistence. It's the bridge between vision and reality, and it's where many strategies falter. Conclusion: the transformative power of strategy. Good strategy, bad strategy, is a masterclass in disciplined thinking and problem solving. Richard P. Rumelt's insights challenge conventional wisdom and offer a fresh perspective on what it takes to succeed. Through lessons on diagnosing challenges, focusing resources, leveraging asymmetries, and executing effectively, the book provides a roadmap for crafting strategies that deliver results. Whether you're leading a business, managing a team, or navigating personal challenges, Rumelt's principles will help you cut through the noise and focus on what truly matters. As Megan discovered, strategy isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most. And with the tools and insights from this book, anyone can create strategies that turn obstacles into opportunities and achieve lasting success.